you just settle and be quiet. At least this has worked for me, and feel into what it is I'm going to be working on at that moment. And sometimes I'm working on something, but I'm not even really present with. It's like things that are I can do without thinking. I might be doing, but my consciousness is like playing with a ton of other things going on that isn't related to what it is that I'm physically sitting there doing, which is an odd feeling. So it's kind of like driving the car and your brain is not engaged with driving, but you drive, which is an interesting feeling. So
yeah, and again, it's all those things about languaging and slotting and multitasking, being effective and versus efficient, and yada yada yada. All these things that were the buzzwords of productivity and getting things done. Because if you don't hold on to that, and as you say, just are coming from the heart, and from that heart space, and letting the heart mind actually, kind of sort and sift and do all of those things, you can create a tremendous amount. And then if you want, your linear mind / jumping a higher mind can sort and sift and put it in different places and say, hey, look, everything's stacked over here and here and here and here, and put the pretty labels on it, and okay, fine.
Right. And the things that dropped were probably supposed to be dropped anyway. So it's, letting that go of the era of perfectionism. I know, Sheila, when you texted me, you were like, and I was like, it's okay, no worries. It came up. Things come up when they're supposed to, and if they're not supposed to, they don't, and you don't judge yourself for it, and you don't judge anybody else for it. You just
I didn't judge myself, although it's also a very new experience for me to do things like that, because I'm not used to it, and I already have let it go. But what happened, BC, is I just copied the time that you said for Gina, and that's so at 5:15 she was like, are we ready? And I'm like, oh crap, no, it's not for 3 hours.
Wrong coast.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like and it seems like since the last time the three of us, BZ, Lisa, and I met, I've just, I don't know, gone over into some excited not waiting. It's a little kid jumping up and down, anticipatory. I'm so excited, and I'm not really quite clear why necessarily, but everything has this really heightened excitement behind it, and it's just so much fun right now that it's hard for me sometimes to just keep still and not come out of my skin.
Yeah. I loved y'all's last video. I watched it. I was laughing so much. You could just see it bubbling all over you, Sheila.
The I got this one was pretty funny.
It was funny.
Both that night were pretty funny, but that one I think was a little over the top funny.
Hilarious.
Well, I mean, it's been moving in, and it's just been, I don't know, it's been awesome.
The funniest thing that was a cap on that, when I published them, I put it in the IV, and then it gets tweeted out, and then I put it on my Facebook feed, and I put it on the IEV portal Facebook feed, and I put it there, eat mine first, and that's just the order that I do it in, and I don't normally go back to check, fairly recent, but for some reason I went back, and something prompted me to look at that one, look below, right? Okay. And there's a note from Facebook says, this is in violation of community guidelines and has been removed. And I'm roaring with laughter. I'm thinking, that one? Seriously? I thought, well, clearly you either did or didn't listen to the whole thing. What?
You exceeded Facebook's love quotient.
Well, it was the funniest thing. So I thought, Well, you know what? I really don't take being kindly to, telling me I can't do something. So that probably wasn't the best idea. So I deleted it from from administrator. I could see, deleted that, put the same thing, everything back the same. And I just added a thing at the top that talked about, how wonderful this other thing. I was like, okay, go ahead, ban it again. Try it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put a text, a post underneath it that said laughingly that this had been banned. And in their infinite wisdom, they banned it. So that was very interesting. I don't know whether someone just came by and flagged it individual and I don't know. But I've never had anything like that. And I put a lot more things that would, maybe be sketchy on their line.
Right.
Well, the one that you put on the IUV, and I would be willing to bet money, the one that I did from Where We Go When We Go All, a note to mainstream media. I call him a troll, I guess, that's all you can think of, somebody that just wanted to, take a swipe or whatever. And I was like, how are you taking offense at this? I don't get it. It was just a note to mainstream media. It told me to shut up and sit down pretty much. I'm like, I'm just reading somebody else's words. I don't know what your gig is, but it's one of those KDS and a bunch of numbers. So, it's not anybody really probably, it's J Trig doing their thing. But, I don't know. It was funny to me.
Right.
What gets noticed and what they're how they're
it's
pursuing.
Because it had in the title you had hashtag WW1WGA, and so people have auto searches on those things, and if it comes up, and that's part of their job, they'll get a feed of everything that has those certain hashtags or certain keywords. And then they get a link. They get an email with all the little links, and they just go to each link, and they have a stock thing, and they just cut it and paste it, and put it in, and then go to the next one. And it's on the IUV actually. There's a manual for how to be a shill. Oh yeah.
You're joking.
No. Oh no. It's on the IUV. It's all over the place, but it's also posted on the IUV, and so the steps of how to do it. Yeah.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Well, what I found very interesting, as far as the I've only done two where I put, the one was hashtag QAnon, where I was, somebody had done a Facebook post. It said it was an urgent message. And no, I haven't had any trolling kind of messages from that one, and it had 750 views. This one with the Where We Go When We Go All, 1,187 views, and that's the one that I got the
but look at when you timed them. So the other one was a while ago, before MSM had hit it, so before it's hit mainstream with Q. And the 4 a.m. drop of the scripted words. So everybody's list has now been changed and augmented. You can see it. That's why do you suppose all of a sudden there are all these people that, and it's really a beautiful dance because absolute data is pouring forth all over the place.
Yeah, true.
And everyone's true frequency vibration, even though they may purport to be over here, is shining, and they can't do it's liar all over the place, as in the movie. So there have been lots of people who are tweeting or maybe about MAGA or about the Great Awakening or about disclosure and this, that, and the other thing. And some of those, have lots of followers on. Some of those are now on this because they got the hat. They were told, okay, go do this. Q doesn't really exist. It's just a scam. And some people's jaws are dropping at some of these people. I'm thinking, why? What? This is what's going on. It's the great reveal.
Yep, absolutely.
It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I know. I just thought it was funny because I really expected a whole lot more backlash on the one that says that was hashtag QAnon. That one I wasn't expecting anything actually. So, but you make a good point. I had not thought about the fact that now that it's come out, that the mainstream is really, going after it. That makes a lot of sense. I had not thought about it. Told you, hadn't been in the linear too much here lately.
So, kind of talking about the community piece, do you want me to, I could maybe just read to you what I have written and we can start, see where that takes us, if that's good, because it'll kind of give you the intent of why I do the calls on the weekly basis, but then what I was kind of thinking about with creating the virtual playground in some way, or trying to find a virtual playground that I could participate in or help grow. Would that be okay if I do that?
Sounds great. The only thing I would ask, if it's possible, instead of reading it verbatim, because whenever you wrote it, you were in one place and you've expanded beyond that. So if you can kind of maybe use it as your notes, talking points, whatever linear descriptors you want, and then come from your heart.
Sure, absolutely. So when I think about the community that I'm working on with the weekly call, it's to create this environment where everybody it's welcoming, it's infused with the energy of, the new energy, not the, the blame and the complain and none of that. It's more around, let's come together, let's play, let's start with a word or start with a statement, and then let's just see where the consciousness takes us. What, if we want to talk about manifestation, or if we want to talk about creation or whatever, and let's just follow that flow and get everybody kind of engaged in it and present with each other. And then, kind of having that be, because how that works. I mean, you guys do it on your calls, and I have it in conversations that I have, where it comes up and then you can kind of work it around, and it shows you all kinds of things, because the symbols come out, the metaphors come out, it just pours out of the conversation. So the weekly calls are to create a container for people to play in that, and to get out of their thinking mind and into their kind of just let this flow, and you don't have to have so much structure and think about what it is you're going to say and analyze it to death. It's just, let's just play with it. What's coming up for you? And people are fearful sometimes and they don't want to say, and it's encouraging them, no, go ahead and put it out into the group, because that brings them in, but it also, they probably have something that needs to add into that conversation, that until they do, it doesn't create the full picture. And so just kind of dancing with that and making sure that, what I see myself as in that is, I'm a participant, obviously, but I'm also a facilitator of that. So it's kind of like making sure that, people are tapped in as much as possible, and putting that olive branch out, or that touch out, to try to bring them into those conversations. But that's the playground of the weekly calls that I've done. And I've had, anywhere from 1 participant on it to 5 participants on it. That's the most I've had at one time. And it's always amazing, because everybody walks away from it with something that clarified for them, or they felt like they contributed to something. And so that's kind of that container. And so when I think about the broader playground, it's like right now, we use the internet as our way to connect, but obviously that's just one step. We can connect without any kind of tool. We energetically, we're all connected anyway. So, but it's the next step, or a step in the way of creating like a gateway, what I'll call a gateway to the new earth energies. It's a place, a node, if you will, that I would, could place out there in the energy field, and it attracts to it, people that are looking for some way to interconnect and interchange and connect on that way. And, it could be, I've given thought to, you have the discussion boards, or, people have their pages where they can put information or projects or things like that out there. If they just want to go into a room and send out a call and say, hey, I'm wanting to connect, and somebody comes into the room, and you can play. So it's a place to have those kind of calls that I'm having on a weekly basis, more ad hoc, with people, as it goes along. So it's kind of like, taking, and I told Sheila and Lisa about this too, and it fits, I think, with what you guys have been talking about, is, I'm getting clearer on the fact that when we create, it's kind of like putting yourself in that place of it's already existing, and you want to feel it. You want to feel the heightened, engagement and the connection and all of that, and you infuse it in that ball of plasma or that container, and you kind of set it there, and that's what I'll call the node. You kind of set it out there, and then you say, with detached love for it, you just kind of say, okay, universe, is that, if that's what's ready, when it's ready, people will connect to it and engage in it and start messing around with it, and it'll start to evolve and pull in different energies and people and beings as needed. To let it grow. That's kind of conceptually what I'm thinking about. It's like taking that, just to have a place where it is, a node is all I can think of, that, the things can come into and kind of play and work, and then they can go out from there, and the thing could grow and grow and grow from there. So that's, in theory, I mean, I can see it. It's hard to explain it, in linear words, but I can feel it and I can see it. But it's not developed, obviously. So, and I know that you were working on the quantum playground, BZ, and I don't know how that fits, or if it's some part of it that you're already working on. I mean, I don't really have to be the one to do it, but this is something that I feel there's a need for, and I feel other people are calling for that ability to have those conversations at a different level than what maybe their family around them are ready to have the conversation with, and they're starting to awaken, and they're going like, okay, I'm seeing things that everybody else isn't seeing. Who can I connect with and help me play with this and grow it or evolve with it, without them going to a physical meeting or having to go to a seminar and, all of that stuff. So that's kind of the impetus, and I feel the call of it. And so just trying to feel into, what does that look like, and how do we bring that to manifestation? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the things that you specifically pulled out on that made me go into what I term as my my quantum conversion logistics hat. And so what is that? Where are you taking the linear aspects that are linear mechanics for the technology currently that I can point to around us, right? Mm-hmm. And then you also have the quantum field and feel of it, and being multidimensional, and the multidimensional responsibility of how, because someone who's from the heart space is going to act, interact, exchange in a very different way than someone who's either just learning to do that or hasn't gotten there yet. And so that's where you have the, that's where the quantum logistics conversion comes in, because you either set it up so that it's, and this is not accurate at all, but it's just linear places where the frequency is such that it's like a force field where those who are not at that point yet will bounce off. Either they just don't see it, or they go, I don't get it, and they leave.
Right.
And that's actually by design. Mm-hmm. Unless someone, there was someone, they said, well, I want to try this, but I'm not certain, that someone kind of takes by the hand and comes into it, then they just magically, hey, I have no problem getting it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because some of the things that you talked about from a technical standpoint discussion boards. So that's an actual structure within that you can, or think of structural modules from a technical standpoint that you can add in different things. And I just was making some notes here as you were doing something. So there was 3 or 4 in there anyways that were structural. So again, if you looked at those right this moment and had those, there is a tremendous amount of moderation that goes on with that, because it's not, those that I could, call up a bunch and point to are not in that same frame, which is the thing. So when I hear all of this, I mean, yeah, it's absolutely fabulous. But again, part of my hat that comes on is the quantum conversion hat that kind of logistics and says, okay, great. So where, part of that, which is not, it could be you click a switch and you do settings, but it's an energetic thing, so that you're not creating, how do I say this? So on the one hand, you're not creating kind of quasi an expansive thing, but it's really just more of the old with a little something new tapped on, or which can be easy to do simply because you've gone more to the 3D, it can do this and this, and people are saying, oh, I know how to do this, I'm just going to move over here and it's all the same. No, it's not. Right? And the other thing that's really, from my perspective, incredibly important is that you have the energetic component set up so that there is no need, if one is, in charge or playing with, just kind of seeing how the flow is going from a logistics, maybe just on a 5D or lower basis, that there's no dragging down of the energies of either that particular being individually or others that are in there. So because we're right on that verge between the two, that's something that actually has to take it from an out there playing with it, and I can do that all day long, and put it into okay, right here the doors are open, this is how it goes, and questions answered, or logistics, or functionality, or work through, or all that. So you blend all those, but you're all blending them in a minimum of a 5D. Most of it is way over here. If, again, this is all linear movements, but most of it's way beyond that as far as energetics and so on and so forth. So anyways, that was some of the stuff from that hat that comes on that popped into mind for me.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and that's one reason why I haven't started anything yet, because it hasn't felt like it's the right time to do it, so to speak. But it's also, I feel that pull. It's like almost here. So it's pulling my creativity in that direction of saying, what does it look like, and how does it work, and how is it different? What kind of container do you create, and how do you put that force field around it, so to speak,
right.
That allows the right vibrations or the matching vibrations in there, but keeps the ones that aren't.
Yeah, my sense too of it is that as far as the building, both on a building level and an energetic building level, you build it with the endless functionality capability and directions to morph into more and more and more, which will get easier and easier and easier as you go. So that's there, but you don't, again, from my perspective, you're not opening it up at the beginning. So you're not saying, I'm building, to use linear terms, I'm building a 28,000 square foot mall with all these things. I'm building this beautiful hall as a meeting hall, conversation connection hall, which has, living rooms and covered porches off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually look outside, you can see the footprints, from a building metaphor, for all that they would all connect. We just haven't hit the button that lights them up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's I'll call it intuitively, or I've been led to do with these calls. So I've kind of started out with the calls, and I thought whenever the momentum builds up and, the volume builds up, because I think it will when there's the right energetic around it and the people are ready to participate in it. But then you go, you can only go so big in that forum. And then I know that it's going to require some offshoots or different things. People are going to be like looking for energetic outlets where they can do those other things like you talked about. They look out the window and you can see the footprint for this breakout room, or this ability to do video, or this ability to post articles, or whatever. And yeah, I'm definitely not ready to do all of that, but that's kind of where my vision is going, to say, what could that be like with the new energies versus the old energies,
Well, and one of the things, it's teaching's not the right word. Experiential learning might be a little closer. It's still not correct.
It's almost like mentoring or something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, that's too hierarchical and dualistic. Yeah. But experiential learning, because that's all on the being who's doing the experiencing and doing the learning. And the other one is experiencing and learning, and they're just sharing their experience. So that's close. Part of that is that the way I hold it is that every step within it is, yes, there's an intimateness and there's a cohesiveness and there's an energetic envelope, but that is known from the outset that it's available to all. Mm-hmm. So not only is it available to all in different, ways, because some calls maybe, we only want to have a total number of present at that moment, let's say 5, okay? But what I'm saying is everything is all recorded in various ways, whether it's written, whether it's auditory, whether it's videos, it's a combination of both, whether it's, lots of different modalities, right? Mm-hmm. And that's part of the knowing, because that's part of stepping in as a galactic citizen, because everything is transparent, because there is no need to be hiding, there is no need to be, and now's a really good time to learn that, because that's where you're going, and
exactly,
that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I found is people, a lot of people wanted to, and I'm happy to talk to you, but they wanted to, have phone calls and conversations. I said, love to. Just so you know, I was told, that's great, do it, but they'll all be recorded and they'll all be published.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that's what I was going to say, okay? Because I've had experience with this myself, and that's the same way I feel. The only reason that things are not recorded and published generally is because beings are afraid of how they're going to sound, or afraid they're going to be judged, or whatever the cases may be. And that's all well and good, but
but they, on my side, they get 15 minutes, and if they change me, great. I love you. It's been great talking to you, but this is what I've been tasked to do. So, that doesn't mean that I have any less connection with you. This is what I've been told to do. Mm-hmm. Since, I got marching orders. This is the way it is.
Well, I've not looked at it that way, but I think that I have the same marching orders.
Yes.
Because it's just right out there, and I'm not gonna, okay.
Because I used I got the foot stomped down and said, now quit it. Because I would say, oh, well, the smaller part. And they said, no, you stop. Because it's a disservice, actually, to those people.
Right.
And then I've also had others where, individuals who said, oh, yeah, no, fine, no problem. And then they get on and they do it, and it's just bait and switch.
That's what I've heard that happen too.
A total out of integrity. And I said, and so I have been nice and said, okay, well, that wasn't what we agreed upon. That isn't, I discussed this with you. And great. Now I can see what energy you're really holding and where your integrity is. And, I enjoyed the call, and that would be the last one. What? It's not mean. It's not anything. Everything is completely upfront and transparent. And it doesn't, the beauty of it is, if they only get past it, is that it actually enhances everything, because it's an energetic envelope that it's there, and they're happening anyways. See, that's the bulletin. Everything is known and transparent, and it's all right there. And hello.
No, exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And that I had that exact same experience with in one specific call. I think it was BZ. I think you were there too, actually. So I was contacted afterwards. It was one of those that we were doing, the first one, I think, with Conscious Conversation Central, where I think you were involved. Maybe you weren't, but I could swear you were. But yeah, I was contacted afterwards, and the beings didn't care for the way they came off after they thought about it, and would like to know if they could be edited out. And I'm like, no, I don't know.
Wow.
Sorry, I don't know how to edit, and that's not going to happen. I warned everybody that this was going to be recorded.
But
and
see, the way I hold it is not a warning. Absolutely happy to do this, and everything is transparent and everything is there. And if you're not feeling comfortable, absolutely, all the power to you. That's great. That's your choice, your perspective. All terrific. And it's not a mesh. It does not match. You're not in the same vibration with me in that. It's not meaning that I'm better and you're not. It has nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. It's where you are, and where you are is beautiful. But I'm not going to change where I am to come over down to where you are. Not going to do it. I'm going to be here and invite you in. If you want to come play, fabulous. Good on you.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people don't, because they look at it from a linear thing, like, you don't, maybe you don't mean it, or if they worm and squirm and whatever they can get out, or maybe another time it's like, no. So, because I'm not going to change where I reside. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
I've been there. I don't live there anymore.
Well, see, I haven't, and I'm not quite sure exactly what frequency I'm living in at the moment, but I will be honest, I've thought about having, open conversations. I like you're doing, Gina. I would like to do that, but I'm not firmly in the proper frequential neighborhood yet, and I still have a tendency to slide over sometimes. And I don't feel strong enough quite yet to facilitate. So my hat is off to you, and I would love to come play in your neighborhood sometime and see what's shaking over there. Mm-hmm. But I've been drawn to kind of try to do that too. But no, I don't think I'm ready yet, personally. So
it's funny we're having this because. And I don't do days, so I don't remember. But kind of a way I laughingly describe it as, I got a Post-it note from my soul. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, I'll get right on that. and it basically was said, and now it's time to do, questions and concepts around the campfire.
Mm.
So I know what that means, right? And I thought, okay, great. So, and again, the way I would do it is, there's some different beings that already come to mind, and keep it small, but where there's either they have a particular question, and it's, since we're all in this together, everybody's going to have different, either an idea of that question or the same question or variations of that question. And then it's not that one is posing the question and there's someone, who's the oracle that's answering the question. It's none of that. It's the question is then a thought form. And part of the play and connectivity is how many, just naturally as you let it flow, how many different levels and layers and flows of perspective can you then, as you play with this question, opens up. And so there was just a few words on the actual post-it, but the rest came in, as Adele is. And what that does is, again, lets beings play in a safe space, but to realize it's almost like the way it was explained, or kind of laid out for me, which makes total sense. It's a multi-locational consciousness playground in a facilitated, kind of containerized way. So we're going to play around the campfire right this moment, and and this is the question, or this is the phrase. It can be that people have brought some stuff in there, kind of at the top of their head, or just we all set the envelope, frequency, vibrational, energetic envelope that moment, and tune in for a minute, and what is the phrase that bubbles up? So whatever it is, and so that's the kind of the guiding thing. And then for a certain amount of time, an hour or whatever, just play with it. But it's actually, the way I hold that too is that it's like instead of a Zumba class or I don't do them anymore, so I don't know the new names of them, but a step class or this class. This is it's this kind of a class where you're actually on multidimensional levels. You're working a whole lot of muscles, from various different body planes. And then quantum and multidimensional planes, there's a lot of stuff going on. And then that, gets put up and it's part of the thing. And I laughed when I got the post-it. I said, well, cool. I said, well, it seems that that's a whole nother area. Now we've got the whole, and fitness isn't the right word, but it's that whole area that what you might have called a gym or different, classes. And that's not the right word either, but what used to be is that kind of thing.
Workshop.
She's calling it a workshop.
Yeah, like a dance intensive, they call a workshop when you really want to hone a skill, you go into an intensive. A workshop.
Yeah, you kind of.
I want to take a workshop. Oh, sorry.
Well, the funny thing
you
is
were
I
fine.
heard every word she said. I just didn't hear it on the linear.
Yeah.
Well, I kept thinking workout, because because on one level you're well, and on one level you're exercising those quantum muscles. On another level, a being may be working some stuff out by hearing multidimensional. I guess that's why I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool, BZ. I like that.
Yep. I can feel that. And it really is what happens when you get people in the concept of not feeling like somebody has the answer.
Well, that's been why my
judge it or say, well, that can't be this. It's like you set the ground rules for no. It's everything that's spoken in the circle is material that's put in there that you can then form and play with. So it's adding clay and paint and whatever else. It's like it may be very different, but at the end of the day, those are your supplies, and you're gonna massage it and grow it and work with it and see what the masterpiece looks like at the end of the event. Because oftentimes you start with a question, somebody thinks, well, I need to answer that, let me think, what are the answers? And so that's part of the call that I have with the group is like, we don't have answers, I don't have answers, we don't have answers, let's just explore. So I love that concept, and I could feel it all through me, that kind of expansiveness with it, imagining it myself.
Yeah, see, that's the biggest thing that's kept me from actually, it's not just sliding over into the frequential neighborhood for me. It's, I don't feel comfortable trying to facilitate something that I just and am still haven't completely eradicated all my programming and conditioning in regards to. And that is the need to be right. I've given that up, but there's still some programming and conditioning in there, not just the need to be right, but recognizing that it's okay for me to be right for me, but I don't have to be right for everybody else, and I'm not ever going to be right for everybody else, or even perhaps anybody else. But see, now I got that for myself now. I haven't, whenever I'm sometimes in a conversation with beings that still feel that they're right, that's when I'm afraid I might slide over into that other frequential neighborhood. Not afraid, but it's just not something I've practiced a lot yet. So that's why I'm not sure I am ready to facilitate anything like that, but I would certainly like to participate.
Yeah, and from one of the two things I wanted to add to that, I'm just going to put this on here. Two things I wanted to add to that is, one, it's like one of the ways I hold it is it's a step up from it's a step up from the CCRTCs. So the Cosmic Creative Roundtable, where that was kind of starting to get people to understand what that is, where, there was a jumping off point, which I then played, and everybody was around the table, and then they played with it. And most of the playing was done with all of the other beings, and I mean, aside from seeing if, different ones from the facility wanted to come step forward. But, and it was interesting. Some had no problem with that, and some, came around, but it was so new to them, where there wasn't a teacher at the head of the class or someone running the workshop, kind of a thing. The other thing I wanted to say is that it reminds me of things that I've done in the physical, certain art classes that I've taken, where the instructor, the person running it, is an artist, and they're really good. But what she, in one of them in particular, in her own way, what she was doing, and what she would do is she would say, the class is at my house, it's a watercolor class, it's from X to X, it's 6 weeks and it's X amount of money, bring your stuff. And then everybody sits around the table, and she has, a still life, or she has this if you want to draw it, or just there's ideas, or bring photographs. And so she has little tips and things, but we're actually all in the space, energetic envelope, although nobody called it that. We're in the space of being creative with our own things, where, it's not you do this and this. It's not, there's no one at the head of the table. Was that total space, that time. Oh, so you could say to someone else, I got to go to class. The teacher doesn't want me to be late. And you get there and you're just creating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, there's one who oftentimes would, you know, like the chat, and people might give it an ear, not necessarily be involved, but that's what he was doing. He was chatting and doing a little bit of stuff, and everybody. So, you know, you could choose, and mostly finally got in the habit of it. But what I'm saying is that is a very cool way, because in providing that space, there actually was a lot of teaching that was going on,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not from the linear persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
And this was many years ago. So, you know, if that same group of people heard me describe it, they'd go, huh? But that's actually what was going on. So it seems to be that I have found over the years in art, actually the place and where I do agility team practice and then class on Thursday nights is similar to that. Yes, there are pointers, but there is none of the what you would normally think if you were going to class to do these kinds of things. It's a space and a frequency and an energy. And these, of course, laughingly enough, these people who run this would be the last ones, like, for a long time to say any of that. But yet that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So this, you know, you just do it where you let people know that right from the outset. Mm-hmm. And some will gravitate right to it right away because that's what they only want to do things like that. Mm-hmm. And some just have to get into new rhythm. So it's, you know, I don't hold it as it's learning per se. It's just a new rhythm and flow. It's when your programming kicks in and you go for one thing, right? You go, oh, okay, it's not that. And I can relax and I can.
Yeah, it's a different approach to it or a different perspective on it in a way.
Well, it requires you to be present, be vulnerable, right, you know, to really participate. And, you know, that creating that environment, you know, for them. And some of them have a real hard time being vulnerable in that, you know. And whether it's doing artwork, they're looking around trying to figure out, you know, what everybody else is doing, or they're really quiet. And so as a facilitator, and when I say facilitator, that's why I use that term, because I don't see it as a, you know, but as the facilitator is just keeping an eye to say, okay, who is it that's, and trying to find ways to coax them into that space of vulnerability so that they'll play, and then they'll get confidence from playing in it, you know, and see, wow, I can do this, you know, and then they'll be a little bit further and a little bit further. Yeah. The job I have right now that earns me income, I work in groups, and some of this I'm starting to reshape what I'm going to be doing in the coming months with some of the groups that I work with, to play with some of that, you know, frequency. And it is an adjustment to get people out of the mindset that there needs to be somebody in charge. There needs to be somebody that has all the answers, and that you get the answers from the collective. I mean, there's very rare questions that you come up with that someone in the room isn't going to get a tip or a, you know, something in their ear or something that comes through their heart that is going to shed some light on whatever it is. And as long as you have a central point that's the center, like teacher, leader, you know, in that way of, you know, setting above or having all the answers, the creativity stops because it's only that one person. So, yeah.
Well, that's, oh my God. I'm saying, oh my God, because that's been the theme of the day. And my musing this morning, the very first thing I saw was a meme by Lisa Risenberry about no limits. If we are operating within a limited parameter, that's exactly what we'll do. We'll go to that ceiling and we won't go any farther. And if your belief system contains a limit, there has to be a teacher or there has to be this, then of course that's as far as you're willing to look.
Well, and I'll say that as a facilitator, you have to also trust, because Sheila, you were talking about not feeling ready to facilitate these kinds of conversations. I don't think you ever feel ready to, you know, you just trust that whatever comes in your space, you're going to get what you need to say. You know, you're going to get that. Well, maybe if you ask this question, you know, or stay the statement, and what it'll come through to you. And just like I'll get in the calls, sometimes I'll say, I don't know why this is coming up, but this is what's coming up, and I'll throw it into the mix, and sure enough, somebody will go, oh, that's what so as a facilitator, you just, you're just like the participants. You're vulnerable, you show up, you hold the space, and again, it's working that inside to keep yourself centered and not let ego trip you one way, out of fear or something else. But you're never gonna feel ready to do.
I guess part of what it is for me is just past experiences that I've had, with, Campfire and a Sacred Healing Space Tribe, and, some of those things where, egos were involved. And I was firmly entrenched in mine, I'm sure, as well. Even though I was looking at a lot of stuff for myself, I hadn't gotten to the point where I could see, my aperture hadn't widened enough yet to the point where I could see that I might have been right for myself, but I'm not ever going to be right for everybody or possibly anybody else. And I wasn't in that. I wasn't approaching it from that perspective as of yet.
And the other thing that comes in that's essential to have, to hold, to experience, and to share with others, to see from all different ways to experience as well, is boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And not the same kind of, no, I'm not talking about linear boundaries, because there's not very many of them, and they all have to do with the frequency vibrational level.
Yes.
And it's a simple boundary to hold. However, if you're below what the level threshold of that is, you're going to smack your head into it, and it's going to feel like a steel, titanium wall, and they're mean, and it has nothing to do with it. They're just simply not going to lower the frequency, simply not going to play that game, simply not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so when I'll just say, so this one being is having a turn. When they can come up in the space, it's like, oh, well, this is a piece of cake, because this is flow, this is love. It's only when you're, to use a linear thing, when you're down out of that, you're ramming against it. Okay, well, if that's what you choose to do, keep going, because we're here. And it's, you're welcome to come in, but you have to come in.
Mm-hmm. We
will not traipse down there into that thing. And again, that's another concept that's vital for people to look at, think about, know, encounter, know in a way, because this is part of being, in galactic and celestial societies and flow of that.
Right.
Well, what came up for me as you were saying that is, that's, if we're not holding that, let's say it's me. I come into the engagement and I'm not at that frequency that, creates that cohesive discussion. If the group doesn't hold that cohesiveness at that level, then I'm not going to recognize maybe that I have something going on inside me that I'm not addressing, or that's something that I need. So it's really a favor to the people who are not, to understand that they're not, at that level. Doesn't make it right or wrong or good or bad. It just is a mirror to them to say, okay, why didn't I connect there? And what does that say? And let me go away and sit with that a little bit. Or maybe it's just asleep, and the next day you're cleared. You never know what it takes. But there are days where you're on, and days where things get globbed onto you that you may not be as high frequency unless you do your own cleansing and, tending to yourself. So,
right. Well, that's kind of why I was saying, and I think maybe even our very first conversation, Gina, between yourself, myself, and Lisa, and I might have even said it in our second one too, where my thoughts in regards to community as a whole, because what Lisa and Albert and I have been doing over here, if one is not open and willing to see their programming and look into themselves and whatever, you know, when things do come up, you just want to be triggered and go away mad kind of thing. Well, you know, hey, guess what? Community's not going to work. Not with me anyway, because that's what I'm doing. And I want to play in that neighborhood where I know I haven't rooted out all the programming and conditioning, but I'm looking at it, and I'm actively asking for participation from my roommates of the moment to say, if I'm acting like that or whatever, to say, okay, wait a minute. Hey, you look a little triggered there. What's up? You know? And I'm absolute. Oh, wow. Yeah. No, wait a minute. Okay. Because I can't tell you how many times that has come up for me. And it's been very helpful, because all three of us are in the space of knowing that we all still have crap, and knowing that we're working on it, and we don't take things personally and get butt hurt and go the other way and say, oh, I don't want to play with you anymore because you're mean, because that happens with folks, you know. But because we're in that kind of space and we hold that kind of space with each other, that's why I was trying to make sure that I communicated that in those other videos, because in the building of any kind of community, virtual, physical, for me personally, doesn't mean I'm right for everybody, but for me personally, that's what I have to have. I can't, because I know I'm not done yet. I'm not finished cooking and all that stuff. So that might happen, you know, but I'm not going to get butthurt if somebody says, hey, your linear is showing. What's up with this? Your smarmy's dancing.
Yeah.
If I just get all butthurt and go away, then that's not progress for me.
Yeah. Well, that's what being 100% responsible, accountable, and liable is.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what
it is.
And I guess that's the thing for me is I don't want to play.
Yeah, and it's a kind of thing too, you know, when you were saying that I had a vision of, you know, where I'm sitting in the living room and someone comes in and I don't even have to turn around, I can feel it, and I'll say, mind that bucket of slop you just brought in with you because you're getting some on the carpet. You know, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, you know. But again, it can be, you know, a metaphor, a euphemism, so there's no angst, there's no anything. It's just, you know.
Yeah, because
we all like the carpet the way it is, so let's not, you know.
Exactly. I'm like I said, I'm very fortunate that I've gotten myself surrounded here by other beings that are doing the exact same thing as I am, and we all just seem to be able to hold that space for each other in any given moment when, you know, somebody's gone all 3D linear and having a moment. You know, because it happens, you know.
And what you're describing is really sacred relationship, you know. Yeah. That's sacred relationship, whether that's, we think about marriage and stuff like that. There's a lot of marriages are not sacred relationships.
Yeah, most, I would say.
We looked, you know, oftentimes we're taught in movies and everything else, oh, the person's supposed to complete you and just make me feel good and all this. And it's like, that is not it. Not it. If you aren't feeling uncomfortable from time to time, then you're not being truthful with each other, you know, and that's in any kind of community. But.
Yeah, quite frankly, Lisa and Albert is the very first example of what actual sacred relationship looks like that I have ever seen. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, between a husband and a wife. So, mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's true love. I mean, if you know that somebody's got toilet paper stuck on the bottom of their foot, are you going to walk around all over the place with toilet paper stuck on the bottom of their foot? If you care about them, you're going to say, hey, you know, you got toilet paper on your foot. But whenever we talk about our energy, so many times, if people take it personally, they're not going to see it. But if you know that the other person really cares about you and wants you to have the best that you can have, it gives you a whole different framework for experience.
I'm sorry, but cosmic humor just jumped right up in my field because you said toilet paper, and in my mind I said booger in the nose because that's the word. I'm sorry, I had to share.
But it's all about stepping up and stepping in and being all there, and again, also realizing that each one of us is a community of one right here. I mean, there's conversations going on all the time, and we're not being 100% responsible, accountable, liable within that. We're not being honest. We're not being trustworthy. We're not doing any of those things. And for a lot, the go-to is, the linear frame where, you got to do something. It has nothing to do with that. You're who you are. You're a singularity right here. You're magnificent. So get with it, man. Quit. There's no more sitting around and saying, oh, it doesn't work anymore. It's bullshit. And there's no time for that anymore. Mm-hmm. It's funny. It reminds me, too, of this is the way that I've always structured the IEB with the concept. I'm not out there. I mean, I hold the space, and it's there. It's great. And if someone says busy and directly, I may come in and play with the comment or give a question back to a question and give some information or links or whatever. But, I'm not the expert of the site that is going to tell you how everything doesn't work that way. That's not how it's designed. That's not what it's supposed to do. And when the beauty of it is some may kibitz about that and some will say whatever, but an awful lot will come in and they'll all share their thoughts on it, their answer for them, what the answer to that is. If they were answering it for themselves, that's what it is. Or this is their experience, or this is their truth of the way that they look at it. And then there's some who will come in, and some of them are trolls and some of them are not, will then come in and say, well, no, it's this way. And then you'll have a whole bunch of others who say, oh, okay, well, I found this. And so there may be a little bit more prongy, sprongy, energetic to it sometimes, where they, foment a little, but they're still in the thing. Mm-hmm. But it's fascinating because there may be, main beings in the conversation, but everybody has gathered around and they're watching and being part of how this is all, playing out. And just in the last, I guess it's been 2 days now, there's been one where the questions have been directed specifically to me. Mm-hmm. And I have played with the answer. Now, again, this is when you guys were just talking about if they're at a different level and they don't want to come up. Mm-hmm. So my answers may be frustrating because in theory they think I'm not answering them, mm-hmm. but I am. Mm-hmm. And I'm giving this, but I'm not going to play down in the lower frequency. And it's not my job, and it's not my, and that's kind of a linear way, but it's breaking the non-interference clause to give all the answers. Not allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. So, and I hold that as that sacred relationship. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And again, it's experiencing it. It's being in the flow where people encounter different things. And instead of going, oh, well, they're, whatever, or they're mean, or they don't know what they're talking about, or, obviously it's all a lie because they won't answer the question, whether it's comments or anything else, right? No, it's, again, because nowhere in that kind of phraseology have they put them into the thing. Have they invested themselves?
Right, in any way, shape, or form.
Right. And that's what everybody's going to learn, and you can see right now, whole hog all over the place, those who are screaming that there's been no investment, they don't trust themselves, they don't love themselves, their hearts are not open, and to me, the beauty of all the shouting and all of this and all that is because all of that has been scraped and chipped and burned and whatever, way you want to hold it, it's a tube of toothpaste moment, and it's all coming out because it can't stay in them. The frequencies will not let it stay in them.
Yeah, and what I've found too in that is, at least in my own journey, the trust and the confidence in myself and the loving myself came when I had difficulty. You know, it's like when you have that frustration or that resistance or that thing that you keep bumping into and you're like, what? You know, then you start looking and because when you get through that and you go through those difficult things, that's when you learn to trust yourself. Right. And that's when you learn to trust the voice inside of your head and
right.
What you're doing. And so it's coming through and you start to feel it and you're like, oh, well, this one feels right and everything plays out right. And this one I feel kind of wonky, but I think that's what I need to do. And you do it and it doesn't work exactly right. Those experiences of that difficulty is what really builds the confidence and builds the trust that you have. And if we don't hold that vibration and other people feel like they're falling out of it or they get that frustration, we aren't giving them that gift of, right. Hey, look at yourself, you know, look at where you're at and you can do it too. We want you here. You know, it's not any kind of class system or anybody better than you.
Yeah, absolutely. We love you and we want you here. And we will absolutely not move our vibration down. Mm-hmm. We won't do that disservice to you or to ourselves.
No, that's right.
Or another way to say it very linear, we won't stop loving you enough to do that. Or we won't stop loving ourselves enough to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, and some people go, what?
But that's really service to others. I mean, at the essence, that's service to others.
True service does, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, BZ, I wanted to be very mindful of your time because I know you said you only had till about 6:30.
Yeah, I gotta.
Do you want to just get back to me on the next time that you, Lisa, and I can meet for our? Okay, all right.
Well, thanks for the conversation this evening. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, and as far as you know, just kind of wrapping this up for the. You know, the quantum playground and the stuff that you're thinking about and what you're doing, it's all part of that progression. And the most important part, the way I hold it, is that, you know, you start with the energetic, but mindful of currently, you know, that's why I said that quantum logistical conversion, mm-hmm. where those pieces can fit in. Mm-hmm. And how you can go from there. You know, it's kind of like a visual might be, you don't want to have, you know, a room that's 3,000 by 8,000 and there's one little lamp and a small child's chair, you know, and a bowl of fruit. And you're, come on, we're open for business. We got lots of stuff coming. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like something I would do.
No, it isn't. You.
Well, and the funny thing is I was sitting here a minute ago and we were all talking. I'm like, we're already in the playground.
Right.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you do the calls, you're doing the IUV and all the other things that you're doing. I'm doing the calls during the week. Right. Sheila's doing the videos with you guys. I mean, we're already in the playground. So it was just like, okay, well, it's already happening, regardless of what that structure, you know, in the 3D looks like. So
yeah. I think one of the ways you can broaden the same thing is the way, you know, talk with your soul and see where you're all at with it. But was the Post-it note that I got is that no, everything is recorded now.
Yeah.
And published.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, mm-hmm. and I know where to hold things if I need to wait a little or whatever. I have no problem with that. Mm-hmm. But that's the parameter because that's part of the experiential stretching and building of muscles. Mm-hmm. To know, because that's being, you know, a galactic and celestial member of the community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I like that.
What just came in for me when you were saying that, BZ, was anything less is playing small.
Yes.
So should we publish this one?
Yes.
I'm all for it. Come on, you know me. That's why I hate record, man.
Well, I was a nanny most of my adult life, and I remember when the nanny cam came out, and I had people ask me, "Well, do you ever worry that your employer is recording you?" And I said no, because you know what? I try to live my life as though if I were being recorded, it really wouldn't matter. Maybe somebody could learn a thing. So I have, okay, and then I learned about telepathy and our connection, and I decided that there is no transparency. That even though I think the person sitting next to me can't hear my thoughts, and okay, maybe even the person sitting next to me thinks that they cannot hear my thoughts, but the truth is radically different. And they do hear my thoughts, and they react to my thoughts, whether either one of us sitting there in those chairs realize it or not. And that thought really brought home the point to me that there is no privacy, not even in my thoughts. And so from that day forward, I try to monitor even my thoughts, because I know that my thoughts do affect whomever and whatever it is that I'm thinking about. And that is my responsibility alone, because I get to craft what goes on in here. So, yeah, so you can record anything.
And it's, you know, it's really I heard a whole bunch say, you know, it's a scary thing, and it's not. Once you get over that program thing, it's not a scary thing. And of course, the irony from, you know, a linear Kabbalistic point of view and from a, you know, cosmic humor point of view is you're recorded all the time, everywhere. It's all monitored. And if you think that's not true, well, you know, I got a bridge I can sell you really cheap. Because it is absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. Some are listened to in real time, right in the moment, and, you know, but everything, all everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And welcome to the energetic accounting.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And that's the beauty of it, because it works both ways, all beings, everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And for everything. That's exactly.
Ledgers have been called, and
yeah, that's exactly correct. That's why, yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. Back when we were still in Knoxville, and I came up with the hashtag all becomes transparent now, I didn't really understand what I was feeling when that came in. I get it now. Because it just is, and everybody just has to get over it.
Well, it's one step too to think about, you know, we manifest based on what energy we're projecting. So if we're not cautious of what what we're thinking, what we're emitting, I mean, we're irresponsible with what we're manifesting. So whether somebody else is going to see it or hear it, or whether it's just it's going to play out in our lives, we need to be better stewards of what that, you know, what's going on up here and here. You know?
Yeah, because you'll get the Post-it note, the billboard, the message, the beep, the alarm, whatever your euphemism is, you're gonna get it. Maybe that truck that just bashed into the front of your house, but
well, since we now have absolutely, because I didn't say anything, I'm gonna say it here. It is Monday, August the 6th. This has been Conscious Conversation Central.
And the Quantum Playground.
And the Quantum Playground. That's correct. And the virtual cup of coffee.
There you go.
and all of the information on how to reach all of these beautiful, wonderful women will be contained in the Show More section of the video. And wow. So okay, so the invitation is out there. If you, you know, this is what it's coming down the pipe. Oh wow, I got a big huge rush behind So yeah, okay. So let me just jump up and down again because now I'm all excited again. So if you want to play in a container where you are open to all of what has been talked about here, then contact any one of the beings that you feel led to contact. That you will find the information in the body of this video.
And a multidimensional container, that's a portal container, that's a cosmic in the sense because it will be, think of it as a galactic coffee shop, coffee house, meeting house sort of thing, because it will be all of those things.
I love that. I love that. The cosmic perk up. Oh my God. I'm already sensing a theme. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, lady. Wow. I am so lucky. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.